Forget the forecast you were expecting for the middle of August, because what is actually setting up across this country right now has almost nothing to do with a single storm system, and everything to do with an entire pattern flip that's going to catch a huge share of this country off guard. While the plains in the south continue baking, a completely different air mass is preparing to take over the eastern half of the United States, and it is going to feel less like the middle of summer and more like an early preview of fall. Let me walk you all through exactly what is developing and why forecasters are treating this shift as such a significant story. Let's start with the core of what is actually happening in the atmosphere, because this is genuinely a pattern-level event rather than a single day's weather. According to the latest long-range guidance from Direct Weather, a strong pattern shift is forecast to send significantly cooler air out of Canada into the central and eastern United States, beginning around the second week of August, while the western states remain locked under a persistent, much warmer ridge of high pressure. Both the European and the American GFS models are showing agreement on a deep trough developing over the eastern half of the country during this window. And I want to explain why that specific detail, model agreement across two major independent forecasting systems, matters so much. When multiple, separately developed weather models, built on different mathematical approaches, converge on the same broad outcome this far in advance, forecasters treat that agreement as a meaningfully higher confidence signal than either model alone would provide. Let me tell you all exactly which parts of the country are going to feel this shift the most. The greatest departure from typical mid-August temperatures is expected across the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, the Great Lakes, and the Ohio Valley. While Direct Weather's forecast does not call for anything close to freezing temperatures, they are describing conditions that could genuinely feel more like September, or in some spots, even early October, rather than the peak of summer. I want you all to sit with that for a second, because a temperature feel that far outside the seasonal norm, arriving during what is typically one of the hottest stretches of the entire year, is exactly the kind of pattern shift that catches people genuinely off guard if they are not paying attention in advance. This cooler, more active pattern is not just about temperature either. Forecasters are also calling for repeated rounds of thunderstorms and heavy rainfall across the east, the Midwest, and the deep south over the coming 2 weeks, with some areas potentially seeing daily thunderstorm chances as this active pattern holds in place. This lines up directly with what the Weather Prediction Center's own official forecast discussion has been saying, describing one of the most active weather patterns of the season, setting up specifically across the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast, with frequent cold fronts and passing storm systems bringing above-average rainfall right through the month. Now, here's where this story gets genuinely interesting, because this pattern shift is not affecting the entire country uniformly, and understanding that contrast is a big part of why I'm calling this a shock everyone kind of pattern rather than a simple cool down. While the East braces for this unusually active cooler stretch, the western United States is forecast to remain considerably warmer overall, held in place by a persistent ridge of high pressure centered near the west coast. At the same time, the Rockies and the Four Corners region are expected to keep benefiting from an active monsoon pattern, with showers and thunderstorms remaining common across Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and the surrounding mountain areas, helping boost precipitation totals through the middle of the month, even as that added cloud cover and rainfall keeps temperatures somewhat more moderate in those specific spots. And then there is the one region, sitting almost directly between these two competing patterns, that is going to miss out on both the East's storminess and the West's monsoon moisture, and that is Texas, Oklahoma, and parts of Kansas. Direct Weather's forecast specifically flags this corridor as a notable exception to the broader active pattern developing on either side of it, meaning while the East gets an unusual cool down and repeated storms, and the Southwest gets its monsoon boost, this stretch of the southern plains looks likely to stay comparatively dry and hot, caught in something of a gap between the two larger weather stories playing out around it. I want to connect this to the official government outlook as well, because it reinforces the same broad picture from an entirely independent source. The Climate Prediction Center's own 6 to 10 day outlook, valid for the August 11th through 15th window, favors above normal precipitation stretching from the southwest and Great Basin eastward into the Great Plains, with the best chances for significantly above normal rainfall, over 50% odds centered across Arizona, most of Utah, eastern Nevada, and southeastern California. At the same time, that same official outlook shows warmer than typical conditions favored across most of the country, particularly from the Rockies to the Pacific coast and across the central and southern plains, with the highest odds for significantly above normal heat concentrated across the lower Mississippi Valley, the southern plains, and the South Atlantic region stretching from Florida through eastern South Carolina. Put together, official government guidance and independent long-range forecasting are painting essentially the same picture from two different angles. a genuinely split country with an unusually cool, stormy pattern gripping the east, while heat and dryness persist across a broad stretch of the south and central plains. I also want to mention the broader climate driver sitting underneath this entire month's forecast, because it ties directly back to a pattern I have discussed with y'all repeatedly this season. This year's El Niño continues strengthening, with weekly sea surface temperatures in the benchmark Niño 3. For region running about 3 degrees Celsius above normal as of the most recent measurement, putting this event at moderate strength and climbing. Forecasters building this month's outlook also factored in a stalled Madden-Julian oscillation, the same large-scale tropical rainfall and wind pattern I've explained on this channel before, along with shifts in the Arctic Oscillation, the North Atlantic Oscillation, and the Pacific North American Index, all of which layer together to help explain why this month's pattern is shaping up to be such a genuinely split, contrasting story across different regions of the country, rather than a single, uniform summer forecast. So let me bring this together and tell y'all what I want different groups of y'all watching for over the coming 2 weeks. If you live anywhere across the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, the Great Lakes, or the Ohio Valley, get ready for a genuinely unusual stretch of mid-August weather, noticeably cooler than typical, with repeated rounds of thunderstorms and heavy rainfall becoming close to a daily possibility during parts of this window. If you are across the Southwest, including Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado, expect your active monsoon pattern to continue, bringing regular afternoon storm chances and a meaningful boost to your seasonal rainfall totals. If you are across Texas, Oklahoma, or Kansas, brace for continued heat and dryness, while the regions on either side of you deal with their own very different weather stories. And no matter where you live, understand that this is a genuine pattern-level shift, not a single passing storm, which means the effects are going to persist and repeat over the coming 2 weeks, rather than clearing out after one day. I will be tracking this evolving pattern closely as we move deeper into the month, and I will have updates out for y'all as the specific day-to-day details come into sharper focus. If this breakdown helped you understand just how unusual and how split this month's weather picture is shaping up to be, please subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications and share this video with anybody you know across the country, because a pattern shift this significant deserves attention no matter which of these very different weather stories you happen to be living under. I will keep watching the models for y'all, and I will see y'all in the next one. Stay weather aware, and I love y'all.